Among Us, a game that was created many years ago that just so happened to instantly blow up in the year 2020 because of certain reasons of boredom and people wanting to have interaction with other people online, since the lack of real interaction with people have caused the urge to do this, making multiplayer games such as this one the ultimate crave of this entire year. And unfortunately, it's going to pass away quite violently. Now, before you get extremely butthurt at this video, I'm just going to make it clear right now. This video has nothing against the actual fundamentals of the game Among Us, and nor is it supposed to be a hate video towards the game whatsoever. It's nothing other than an analyzation of the way the game works and exactly why that's going to lead to its inevitable death. Now, I'm not just talking about a death of like any other game's normal decline, but I'm talking about a Fortnite level decline into basically non-existence. Among Us is going to suffer and is actually showing the first signs and symptoms. Now, I'm a doctor and I can diagnose this real well because I've done this so many times over the years. It's a normal cycle of the way games and their reputations develop. It's almost like the way stonks work, except in games form. Basically, we start out with speculation, people not really knowing much about the game and it not really being that well known. And then we move on to hype, which ends up being a trend beginning with the game and always ending up in the top phase of euphoria. Everyone and their Roblox girlfriend is playing the game and is trying to make videos milking the viewership and the trend of the game itself on YouTube and all kinds of other social media websites. New personalities spring up from the woodwork using nothing more but the game's popularity, and then instantly becoming the most sensational overnight personalities. And then we have the crest of the peak of this cycle. This point is where the game seems to settle off in its rank within all other games in comparison around its nature, and seems to be able to maintain its strong fan base and user base throughout this small period of time. Now, what happens next is the inevitable return to normal, as we could see right here. With Among Us, we're not going to see it exactly like this, and I'll explain why. First of all, since we know exactly why this game exploded, due to the obvious reasons of what I just covered briefly in the beginning section of this video, it is thriving on the very thing that is eventually going to poison it and then lead it to its downfall. How, you may ask? And why am I being so pessimistic? Well, let me let you in on a secret. When games are created, they are made with a multi-marketing plan, which is set aside based off of the budget of advertising. Now, with all of these certain processes that happen before a game even goes public, there's also another plan that actually is set in place specifically to avoid the game from dying right after. This is called the fallback effect, and its name is quite ironic in this case, since it kind of reminds me of the game called Fall Guys. So we might just have to rename that real quick for this video's sake to the Fall Guys effect. So what happens is, a game studio sets aside a certain portion of the money that they use to make the game to advertising it to a certain market of people. Using boring math strategies, they figure that due to the nature of whatever market that they're going for, they can estimate the concurrent interest length of time that the game is going to be able to attract attention for, and then after which, it will begin to fade into obscurity. So they set aside another budget, which is actually a legitimate budget that all game studios set aside, except for the ones that don't really have a cash money strategy, that is literally on paper described to be the fallback effect budget. Money will begin to be poured into the game in order to promote not the game itself, but the game's updates. Meaning, instead of just promoting the game via advertisements and word of mouth through the natural means of trends online on social media, you will begin to see the stages of updates to the game being promoted and advertised through sponsorships of individuals and through ads all over the internet. Once you see this process happening with any game, for example, when Fortnite starts to make all of these crazy ads regarding new seasons, new updates, new add-on packs, along with all other games that are similar to Fortnite's nature doing the same, you know that they have reached the fallback effect stage of their game's lifespan. I mean, this is literally written on paper for game budgets when it comes to their marketing. So clearly, the makers of these games definitely know how this stuff works. Among Us and their creators Innersloth have just started the process of the fallback budget when it comes to their game's promotion. We see the first glimpses of updates being promoted into the limelight regarding new content, new game modes, and new different additions within their game, which leads me, Chief Investigative Journalist Dallas aka Infernus, the master at what I do, to understand that they have passed their expected peak. That they, the makers themselves, expected to ever reach. Now, of course, here's the fundamental dilemma that we're facing here with this situation. Exactly 6 months ago, you didn't know that the game Among Us existed. I guarantee you. 3 years ago, you didn't realize that the game Fortnite existed. I guarantee you. But exactly 7 years ago, more people watching this video, on average, played the game called Minecraft than the amount of people right now. That's just numbers for you in general. Even though Minecraft has hit a new relative peak based off of its new gaining interest in the last year or so, it still has not reached the player base of concurrent players and relevance that it had way back in its peak of 2013. And do you want to know why? It's because Minecraft never had a fallback effect budget, because Minecraft never had an advertising budget to begin with. But yet during all this time, while Minecraft was rocketing off all the way through its birth, its grow up period, and all the way to its death, temporarily, Fortnite and Among Us already existed with its very feeble fan base that basically no one even realized. In fact, some of these games, such as Fall Guys, Fortnite, and all of those other ones, were basically in existence all the way far back to the beginning of the sandbox era of gaming, such as Minecraft, Roblox, and Terraria. They just all sat dormant until eventually some form of phenomenon took place to basically explode them into what we see today. Sandbox fan-based games are not intended to have fallback budgets, because there's no need to. There's no general content or concept of the game that's needed to be promoted more in order to prevent the cycle of the game from falling off. And that's because of the replayability. You can turn on any of these games, Roblox, Minecraft, Terraria, anything else in that nature, multiplayer, single player, and you will never run out of things that there is necessarily to do. There is no end goal, and there is no main objective. This is entirely contrary to the game models of Fall Guys, Fortnite, Among Us, Cyberpunk, and, by the way, just, my god. These games all came out with a budget, and these games all ended with a fallback effect. Because no matter how many updates they can put out, no matter how many new game styles or game content that they can possibly add, the very objective of the game will not be changed. It's static, unmoldable, and unyielding, which is the very element which gives the game its set-in-stone lifespan from the very first breath that it takes. There are no other lifespans for games that are similar to Minecraft. As long as people exist, there's always going to be a group of them playing Minecraft and games of that nature. But not Among Us, because there's always something else that comes along further. Or I could just simply have looked up on Google Trends the line graph for Among Us's popularity, and then use that simple fact as a way to basically milk this entire video, but obviously that's not what this is about. The very makers of these games that go through these different cycles very much know how they work. They're not in the dark, but the people that play them and are involved in basically making these cycles what they are not even aware of them themselves, which I find to be kind of fascinating. It's almost like gaming as a whole is one giant pyramid scheme. So will the game Among Us be entirely dead tomorrow, next week, next month? Well, obviously not. But I will guarantee you, by this exact time next year, I'm no prophet teller, and I'm definitely no crystal ball holder, it will no longer be a thing. So you could just basically vote me out for saying that if you really don't agree with me. But if you do agree with me, make sure you just kindly annihilate the subscribe button, unless it's already gray. And if it's gray, you've won yourself 10 years of good luck already. But my name's Dallas aka Infernus, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.